just reboot my camera over here. Oops, just bear with me a second because my thing was glitching, so I had to reset my stream. So we're back, and hopefully everything works now. And I'm drawing a farm scene of horses. I've just started it. Get my channel up. There we go. I've just started it, so hopefully we'll be okay and it will work. Everything crossed. Okay, that's working now. Excellent, it's working now. So welcome. Sorry about that, everyone. So now I'm drawing these horses. So this is for Dina Tollefson's art challenge called Farm. And I wanted to draw this little farm scene of a cowboy driving his horses. So I've drawn the first two. Now I'm going to draw, there's another one, I can disappear his shoulder a little bit. I'm still undecided whether I'm going to do pen and ink. I might do pen and ink and a watercolour wash. Now this horse disappears off here. He's right next to that one. They're all in a little herd. And he's sort of walking off to the side a little bit. Like that. And I got this reference off Unsplash. I haven't popped it up on the screen on the left because obviously I'm having computer issues this morning. So I didn't worry about it. But I'll put it in when I do the actual like the short format video. I'll draw these little horses just down here. And this one's walking. He's taking a few steps. So we'll pop that in there like that. Don't have to worry too much about too much detail in this under sketch. Okay, now there's a horse actually standing to the side of us, like looking at us. So I'll draw him in. I'll get rid of this bush I put down here. There's a bit of a scene, sort of, there's trees and all sorts of stuff happening down here. So I'll draw this horse. He's about the same height as the others. And he's facing us. He's looking at us, or looking at the cowboy, in fact. So I'll draw his little face. I can change his ears. I've done his ears a bit big, I think. That's fine. I can adjust and readjust details as I go, as I always do. He's sort of looking like he's made his back a bit high. There we go. Okay. Come down. Now his head and his back are the same length. His neck and his head and his back. Yep, I've done that right. I've made his back a little bit, a fraction long maybe. So I can shorten that up. He's standing just looking. Like that. I'll draw his tum and then his back leg. Disappears off down there behind the bushes. Okay. So we've got a little cowboy scene happening. There's another horse just here. He's sort of looking that way. It's quite a busy little scene. There's lots going on. I'll draw him. He's sort of standing there or walking off this way. Can't see all of him. So draw his rump like that. I can change things around as I need to. Okay, now let's have a look. Where are we at? Okay, quite happy with that. And I'll draw one more horse. Hang on, that horse's head's way too big. Got to make it a bit smaller. There we go. And then I'm going to add another little horse down here, walking off. Like that. And then he's sort of, again, got his back to us, behind this horse. You get to see his rump there, with his tail. And I can't see his legs off in the background, but I might just pop some there. Just a little bit of. I'm gonna tidy this little face up, and sort of connecting all the animals helps to give it a bit of But I don't know, it does something special when you have animals all together in like a little herd. It really does make things look more realistic and authentic. Okay, now they're in a little sort of bushy scene on a farm, so I'm going to draw a paddock over here, and there's sort of like bushy, scrubby bits coming up down here. And I'm gonna do this in ink because I love ink. There's a tree up here. I'll draw the tree. There's a beautiful big branch coming off there. A root system coming off into the ground like that, like that. And then I'll have that branch coming up there. There's another bush sort of here. And I might draw a little fence in, we'll see. I'll go draw a few more little scrubby bits in, little bushy bits, like that. Okay, I'm going to get my ink ready. I'm actually quite happy with that. So I'm going to grab my ink. Where's my ink? I had it. Here, ink, 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 ink. Where do I have my ink? Oh, there it is. Oh no, that's red ink. I want black ink. I'll grab my other black ink, shall I? Let's grab my black ink. Okay, give it a shake. Got that happening. Get some in my palette that I'm going to be using my dip pen. And I'm going to start left to right because I did that yesterday, except the other day I worked right to left and made a pretty big mess. So I thought today I'll do it this way. So I'm going to start with this little horse here on the left. I can add a little bit. His neck comes around the back like that. I can erase the pencil marks at the end when I'm done. So that's fine. Draw the back end of this horse like that, and his tail comes around. I can add shadows and stuff in a minute. Now this horse is quite alert and he's standing, sort of looking at this other little one, the cowboy that's coming towards him. So I'm not going to draw their little faces on yet. I'm just going to sort of get their perspective and stance right. That's his little chest there. He's watching the cowboy's horse and what he's doing. So come back around here. Get that drawn in. Like that. And then, oops, draw his belly. Clean my brush. Not my brush, my pen. Clean my pen. Draw his belly. A little bit lower maybe. So he doesn't look so sort of stiff and rigid. And I'll draw his back leg coming down here. And his knee and his hock are the same height. Draw this one in a bit more, like that. And his tail out, like that. So yeah, this is a little farm scene for Dina Tollefson over on YouTube, whose monthly prompt is farm. So I thought I'd do a cowboy droving his horses. In Australia we call it droving. My father-in-law was a drover, and an Australian version of a cowboy. So was my husband. Okay, now come back here. I'm going to draw just the hip of that horse in, and then I'll add the tail. I can come back and add manes and all kinds of stuff, and eyes and shadows, and I'll draw his mane in because it helps. I'll draw this one's mane in too. Just want to get this basic sort of scene of all these horses together in. This horse's face disappears off behind this other horse, so I'm not gonna, I'll just draw the cheek of it like that. Draw the mane. And come down and around. And you can see I haven't done a lot of detail on these horses' legs because they're very much off in the distance. They're very much um, herded together and not a whole lot of detail each, just the group of them as a herd makes the detail. Give his tail there, like that. Come back here. Then that leg down there. Okay, having another quick look. Get onto this little one. Got his ears a bit apart, too far apart, so you can only just see the side of his. I'll draw his mane off to the right, and his rump is here. So we got the back of him. I'll give his tail swooshing to the right, because that's fun. Why not? And then draw his hocks coming down here. I can see his belly a little bit, so I better draw that in. And his front legs sort of there. Okay, having another quick look at my screen. Looking okay. It's looking okay. And it's fun drawing horses in all different directions, or any animal, drawing them from all different perspectives. It just helps to keep things interesting. I'll draw his little nose off down there. His rump and his belly come out there. Draw his little mane. So it's just the effect of horses even. You know, there's very little detail on these guys. I'll do shadows, like I'll do ink washes over the top to create the shadows and the highlights and stuff. But I wanted to keep this fun and simple. There we go. Okay, so we've got our horses in. So I'm going to now draw in these sort of scrubby brush bits behind them. Just rough them in, and all grass is squiggle. It's just squiggles. And that comes actually up here and into the foreground. Because the horses are down on the flat in like a sandy, sort of sandy area. It's like he's herded them down onto the flats from a hill. So we'll come down behind the cowboy. Now I can add a little bit more texture to these grasses. Make them a bit longer as they come towards us, because the closer to me, the grass is longer. In the distance, things get smaller. Now, I'm going to go onto this cowboy. Actually, I'll do the grass down here a bit. Now, this cowboy, going to draw his hat. So I've got to be careful not to make it too big. You can see the brim on the other side. See the back of his head. I'll just draw his hair, because why not? Okay, there's his hair. I'll give him a bit of a stronger shoulder. I'll bring his arm around so it looks like his elbows are, he's holding his reins. So I'll come back around here. Alright. Draw the creases in his shirt, like that. He's got his chaps on. I'll draw the back of the saddle. Better draw the back of the saddle. And you can just see the side of his horse's head. I'll draw the bridle on it, like that. And then his horse's rump. So draw that on here. Come down and around. And then the hock. Come right down. And I'm so used to drawing horses by eye, I don't need to hand measure. Like I usually measure everything against the head. Like the head will be 2 times the length of the leg. The body, you know, I'm just so used to doing it. Yeah, I just do it by instinct now. But yeah, I usually measure everything against the head. And like I measured the cowboy was almost half the height of the horse. So that's how I got his height, to make him look realistic-ish. Draw his boots. The backs of them are facing us, so you can't really see them, like that. Okay. there we have Cowboy. I can have him holding a rope or something. Yeah, I can put a rope in his arms like that. Because he could be wanting to lasso one of them. That could be interesting. That could be fun. So then, there's all dust coming up behind him, but I'll try and paint that in. I'm going to draw a fence over here. I haven't got it in the picture, but I'm going to draw it in. And I'm going to draw little scrubby bushes here. And they're just scribbles. Like that. Because there's little we call them salt bush. It looks like little salt bush or tumbleweedy type of shrubby bushes. Okay. Like that. And I'm going to draw a fence line up here, but it's in the distance, so it's not going to be big. Try and keep them sort of reasonably gapped apart. And I'll have a gate somewhere along there that he's herding them to, I reckon. Whoops. I reckon I'll pop the gate up here off to the right. I'll just leave a hole in the fence like that. So it looks as if he's herding them up towards that. And I'll do another line about the middle. So it's like a post and rail fence. Like that. There we go. Now for these background bushes, I'll just draw, I'll paint all this, I'll do all that with an ink wash down there. So I'm going to do some trees up here where I've sort of roughly scribbled pencil mark. I'll draw them off like that in the background. Do a few different sort of shapes and sizes, squiggles like that. Again, coming down. I might have them, that's a beautiful big tree way off there, so I'll draw him in because that's just, I just love that tree, that was really pretty. So I'll draw just the base of that. Then you can see the root sort of system coming out and around. I can draw some more grass around that. Like that. Let's have a look. And that's almost completely in shadow, so I'm not going to worry terribly much about that. I can draw some more sort of trees going off into the distance. A little bit of grass. So trees are just scribble, because I want the focus to be on these guys down here. I can also draw some horses off in the distance. That could be fun, just to create a little bit of a distant. I've got a reference picture, but I'm just using it as a guide. I'm not following it. I've just used it basically to place the horses, and I haven't worried about the rest. So I'm going to draw some horses very off in the distance eating grass. Like that. Just to create, so it looks like they're heading in a direction to do something. Whoops, doesn't matter that his head's gone all dark. I'll just pretend that's like, I'll just draw a bit of grass around it. Like that. Just give them some shape. Like that. Doesn't have to be detail, because they're in the distance, so I'm just creating the illusion that they're there. I might even darken those out completely, sort of getting towards the end. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I might do another little fence line off in the distance, like that. That just creates a bit more of a something to look at. Sort of finishes the scene off. Come back over here and do that sort of fence along there, like that. Alright, just doing it by eye. Okay, I'm quite happy. Right, I'm going to go in with the washes now. So I clean my brush, my pen I mean, grab my little brush, and I'm going to start up the background. I'm going to start with the sort of paddock. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going to start down here. I'm just going to wet the whole background. And just go around the horses. I can go over the bushes, doesn't matter. That's not the end of the world, but I'll leave the horses. But I'll fill in all the paddock that they're in. So I'm just gently cutting around with ink wash all of these horses. Cut around the cowboy. Got to be quite fast with this because it can dry super duper fast. Come down here alongside his horse like that. Up the top. Cut around his hat. And I want that grass to be reasonably pale. It's much darker sort of towards me, so I'll darken up the background. And it shows you, it's fun to do this to practice your monotone work. Like you can work on your tones and your values, and it teaches you how to see values, which I found one of the hardest things to learn in painting was seeing colour value from lights to dark to make things look real. So that's why I love to practice working in one colour. It just takes all the stress out of using all different colours. Takes all the stress out of it. There we go. So I'm going to go. I'm also going to take a bit more on my brush. This back hill is actually a touch darker. So I'll add a touch more ink to the wash. I'll fill in above the trees. It's a fraction darker. Oops, gotta itch my ear. There we go. Right, whoops, made my glasses wonky. Okay. Cut around these. Actually, I can go over these little horses like that because they're in the distance. Doesn't matter. They're dry-ish enough. Alright. That helps to blend those out. Okay. I'm quite happy with that. Having another quick look. Now for the foreground, it is quite dark. So I'm going to add a little bit more ink to my ink wash. And just scruff that up with this stronger mix. Like that. A bit more on my brush. And come up and under. Now I've got to keep an eye on. Hey Joe, how are you, doll? So I'm just getting all of this foreground on and the shadow. And this horse has got a shadow coming off there. So this is my Dina Tollefson challenge today. This is for farm. So I'm doing a little horse farm scene. A cowboy driving his horses. So I've drawn in the base sort of sketch. I'm not going to worry about the sky so much. Or I might just take a very pale wash over the whole background, because why not? Take a whole wash over the whole background. There we go. And I can drop some in. Okie doke. So now start to do shadows because everything looks flat. So I'm going to go a stronger tone, add a bit more ink, a bit less water, and I've got to have a test bit of paper. Where's my test bit of paper? There we go. Okay, so these horses, I'll create grass texture. I can pop my grass in the foreground using my brush. just to get those bits sort of closer to us. And now I'm going to take a little bit of shadow underneath the horse. Sort of, he goes off, it's a tall sort of shadow, and it connects to the horse. Take it all underneath like that. And then these horses, the same. They've got their shadows that come out like that. His shadow connects that one to him between the legs like that. His shadow goes out there. So this is how you start to get perspective and a little bit of not realism, but sort of makes things look more real, less flat. Now I can draw shadow under here. Comes almost all the way up. Okay, and that creates the dark against the horses as well, which helps them to pop. Bit of dark against light. You want your darkest darks against your lightest lights. So I'll do that too onto that horse. Create a bit of shadow coming up here. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I might connect that line to that horse. Right, clean my brush. I'm also going to add shadows on that fence. I've got way too much ink on that brush, but it doesn't matter. I'll just pick up a bit of that and just use that to add the shadow. So it just shows that little reflection coming off. I've got to blot that. I'm going to clean my brush, wet it, clean it, and just touch into that. And then I'm going to blot it with my piece of paper just to soften that. It was a bit heavy. Looked a bit heavy there. Okay, now this tree up here is nearly almost in darkness. So I shall just block that in. And you've got to remember, have all your shadows go in the same direction. It's easy to forget. It is actually easy to forget where your shadows, what direction your shadows go. So even though those horses are facing, that one's facing the other way, I do the shadow in the other direction. Okay, and these trees have got shadow as well, so I'll pop their shadows like that. I've got to colour in the leaves a bit more, darken them up like that. And that starts to make things look okay. They start to have a feeling of perspective. I'm going to darken up. Woohoo! That's a bit too much. Clean my brush, take the excess moisture out, and I'm just going to use that same ink. I'll just blop that around. Do a bit of blopping, a bit of blipping and blopping with my paint, like that, or my ink. Okay, to create these trees. Okay, a bit more. Whoops, that's a bit too much again. I've lost control of my doodah. There we go. Come back down here. A bit more up there. A bit over here. These two little trees. Like that. And I'm going to go almost pure ink on the shadow side of this tree and let it flow in and under these branches as well. Like that. Okay. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to darken up. I'm going to go back into these little horses up here with a slightly stronger ink wash and shadow underneath their little bellies. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to look at these horses and I'm going to start to add their shadow in. So this little grey horse here, I'm going to add, he's got shadow under his belly, onto his back end. I'll leave the highest, the highlights will be the white of the paper. Now his neck, he's got shadow all under here and all there. And at the end I'll go on with pen and add the detail back in if I've lost any. I've got to do his shoulder. Okay, this one, shadow down there and onto his rump. This one's face is in light, his back's in light, like that. Okay, and his rump, his shadow. I'll draw the tail back in with ink in a minute. His back leg is in light, in the shadow. His tummy's in shadow. His neck and face and that leg are in shadow. Righto. This one, this side's in light, or this side on both of these is in light. So I just, whoops, get too much ink on my brush, wet my brush, wipe it down, and drag that around like that. Now onto the cowboy. So that's just rough shadows on those horses, but I'm leaving the lights coming from that way. So I want all the shadows going away. I've got to re-put these ones onto here because they didn't really show up. They dried too pale. Again, on those trees, go stronger. On these little scrubs, I'll do the same thing. Put the little shadows going the other way, like that. And that creates that. Okay, now the cowboy's horse. This side's in shadow. Underside of that leg, his tail. His face is almost all in shadow. His neck definitely is. And that leg on the cowboy, I'll darken his hat up. I'll go in with pure black ink for that. Whoops, get a bit of pure black ink on my brush. Use the very, very tip of my brush to block that in. There we go. Okay. Are they Brumbies? They are. Hey Shane, how are you, Dell? They are. They certainly are. It's sort of a partially made up scene. I used a reference of a drover mustering these horses, but then the rest I sort of just made up for a bit of fun. So now I can go a bit stronger and a bit darker on the shadows on the horses. I want to start strengthening them a bit. You got to be brave and do your darkest darks against your lightest lights. So I'm going to start to darken up. I'll wet my brush and drag that out. I don't want harsh edges on shadows. Shadows don't have hard edges usually. They usually have soft edges. So pop that in. And I popped your pictures in the mail yesterday, Joe, so they're on their way. Exciting. And I put a few surprise ones in. Doing great. How are you? Yeah, good, Dale. Doing really well. Doing really well. It's Friday. So I'm really glad I work this afternoon and then I've got the weekend off. So, and I think Scott and I are going away. We might go fishing just for a day or so. We'll see how we go. See how we go. Lots has been happening. And depends on whether the weather holds. It's looking a bit bleak weather-wise. My pleasure, Dale. My pleasure, Joe. You've been an awesome support. You guys and girls have been a world of awesomeness to me. And I appreciate you very, very much. And it's nice that I can give a little bit of art sometimes to you guys to say thank you. It's, it's the least I can do. The least I can do to show support back to you guys that you show me. The absolute least I can do. So these shadows are starting to come together. Starting to come together. I've just got to soften the edges a bit more. Whoops. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so it's going to be a busy day at work today actually because it's a long weekend. It's Melbourne Cup weekend here. So we're about to have, because I work in a supermarket and everyone else has the weekend off and Monday, Tuesday usually. So the supermarket's going to be crazy busy this afternoon with everyone going away on holidays. So I thought I'm going to chill this morning and do this with you guys. Okay, now you can see those shadows are starting to strengthen. I've got to darken these horses up a little bit up here. The ones off in the distance. I'll just darken them up a little bit more. Every layer of ink you do makes it a little bit darker. I'm just trying to think, do I need to add... I'm just having a quick look, thinking what can I do? What can I do? What do I need to do? I need to darken this shadow down here. I'm going to take a really dark shadow coming down here. I'm going to wet my brush and drag that down, let it flow, because it's sort of like a hill. It's down the bottom of a hill. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to create that effect. I'm going to darken up right here, because that's all in deep dark shadow just here. Like that. Create some really strong grass just there. Okay. Alright, having another look. I am going to do some more shadow. Whoops, that's way too dark. Wet my brush, drag that out, and darken up. Do a bit more up here, I think. Add some more trees and some more little shrubbery in the distance. Like that. Is this the same ink you did the other day? It is, it is. It's my Dale Rowney acrylic ink. Love it. That's the one right there. I've got Sennelier ink as well, which I equally love. But this is I just grabbed the first one that I grabbed, which was my Sennelier. Sorry, my Dale Rowney. It was the first one that I saw, and it was easy to get to, so I just grabbed it off the top. Because I've got a tub of ink I've got so many inks, it's ridiculous. Because one Inktober I decided to do everything colourful ink. But I'm really enjoying working monotone because it teaches you how to use values. And that's one of the things that I have struggled with the most in all of my artwork, in all of the time. I'm going to really darken up the right sides of these trees. Create more shadow. Yeah, what I've really struggled with in all the years. Oh my goodness, there's a crane outside my window. A bird crane. A massive one. Oh, wow. That's bizarre. I'm sitting looking out my window and there is a massive bird outside my window. We've had lots of birds, but he's a crane. If I could point my camera at him, I would. Wow. I've seen them on the dam. We've got a lake, like a dam down the paddock. I've never seen one at the house before. Goodness gracious me. Going to get some? Yeah, it's wonderful stuff. It is wonderful work, wonderful stuff, Joe. It's really good fun to use. And you can see it's versatile. And I do all my ink work. Like, I'm just going to add these shadows back in. The shadows keep fading back on this little fence. And I'm going to make the fence a bit more rough looking, a bit rustic. I don't want the lines so thin, and because they're made out of wood. That's a shock to look up and see a bird that size in my in my face. I apologise if there's any lag. My YouTube's playing up today. I had trouble getting the stream going. Took me a couple of goes. So I'm just strengthening up that fence off in the distance. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to make it grassy at the bottom, because lots of fences have lots of grass at the bottom. Because that's what I've done. I've got the line too flat. I've made the line too flat. So I'm just going to add a little bit of texture in there. That's what was looking wrong. I'm like, the fence just looked wrong. It was just plopped. So I'm grassing it up. Do you have coffee? I do. Oh my God. Thank you, Shane. Oh. Joe, Shane's my mate from Twitch, and every time he's like my reminder to drink my tea or coffee. And yeah, it's funny. Every time I forget. So funny. Right, I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to go back in. I'm happy with that background. I think I'm going to, yep, no, I think I'm going to leave the background. I'm going to go back in now with my dip pen and add a little bit of shadow. I can add some detail now onto these little horses. A bit better detail. A bit more of their manes. I can do little like hatching now. I can do the shadows on their bellies just by using a little bit of hatching, it's called. I have to say, I'm actually onto cups of tea. I'm drinking a lot of tea at the moment. I've gone right off coffee. I don't know what's going on with me, but yeah, I've been drinking an awful lot of tea. So I've got my cup of tea next to me. Usually I end the stream with a cold cup. Yeah, I never ever drink it while it's hot because that's how I roll. Actually, I'm going to do his mane a bit longer, and he's got to have a forelock too. They call the bit of fur on their like their fringe. Or you call in America you call them bangs. In Australia we call them a fringe or a forelock. I'm going to come down here, just shadow on his chin. Just makes things look a bit more. That bird's hilarious. Sorry, I'm still in shock. I'd love to show it to you, but I don't know how to. I could turn my face camera around, but I've got it sticky taped down, so I don't drop it. Because I drop everything all the time. I draw his nose in, come down and around. I can see his chest sort of disappeared off there, so I'll add that in. You see, I'm starting to add a little bit more of the detail now. I can draw his eye, his forelock, bit of shadowing on there, bit of shadow on the back of that leg, shadow on that leg. Okay. Darken up the tail. Whoops. Get a bit more ink on my pen. Darken up the tail. And he's swooshing his tail like that. Make his mane a bit longer because they're not all perfectly manicured horses. You can just see the side of that one's face. I'm not going to darken that up too much. Now I'm having a quick look. Rough up his tail. He's swooshing it that way. And then swoosh his tail. And I can add a shadow on that leg, add a bit of shadow under the belly, shadow on that front leg, Okay, they're starting to come together. Hello, David. How are you, doll? Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to put some shadow on here, onto this back leg. I'm going to darken up the chin. Draw a bit of a forelock there on this horse. Get a bit more ink. Come down and around. And fill in his sleeve. Right, I'm quite happy with that. Is there anything else I can add? You know what? He needs a little dog. I need to do a little cattle dog. I've got to Google a cattle dog. So cattle dog, I'm just going to Google it. Cattle. He needs a little dog running around with him because cowboys have dogs. Cattle dog and horse. Let's do that and see if I can find a picture so I can get the dimensions and proportions right. Oh, there we go. Images. Where is he? Oh, there's one of a dog sitting on a horse. That's cute. Okay, there we go. So, I'm going to use that one. So there's a little dog. I'll draw a little dog here. Like that. Have him running. He's sort of trotting up. Like that. Draw his little body. His little leg coming off there. And his tail. Like that. Oops. Hey Playboy, how are you, mate? Okay, so I'll draw his little leg coming off here. And then that leg's under here. So he's sort of trotting up to his owner. Like that. Draw his tail. And I can almost draw his little white, he's got a little patch there. I'm going to get my brush now and shadow, actually I'll shadow him with ink first. I thought he needed a little dog. He needed his little dog, so I'll shadow that in. You shadow that other little leg. Like that. And he's a black dog anyway, so that sort of helps. Under that leg. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little bit of a wash of colour over the top. Little wash of a colour over the top. Of black on me, of stronger tone rather. Just to darken him up. While he's still a bit wet. Give him a little shadow. Like that. So we got our little working dog. Thought it needed something else. Okay, so that's a bit cute. And then I'll add actually a little bit more pure black. While that's still wet, going with pure ink. Whoops, like that. Okay, and you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to add some birds. I'm going to pop some birds into the sky. Because there's always birds on farms. They're always everywhere. So I'll do a couple little ones way off there in the distance. Do a couple up here. Like that. Do some little birds here, there and everywhere. Just to create interest. Because there's always wildlife on farms. Always. I can draw some more little grassy bits. Some more. I'll give him a bit of a stronger shadow. Like that. Okay. Draw some more grass. And I reckon, I have to say, this is just about, I'm quite happy with it. I think that's just about done. Well, that took what, 45 minutes? 45 minutes. So there you go. There you have it. One little country farm scene. Just don't forget your shadows. Don't forget, that shows you how important shadows are. With anything, with ink, with, don't forget the Kelpie. Nope, I got the Kelpie in. He's in. Can't forget the little cattle dog. Can't forget him. It's going to strengthen up these fences. Make these fence posts a bit thicker. They need to be a bit more solid. They're a bit too wispy and skinny looking. And we've got this fencing here. My husband and I spent months cutting down. We had permission to cut down trees off a friend's farm. We cut down all the trees. We debarked them. We split the wood into posts and rails. And then we built the fence. Did it all with my Cindy daughter, my eldest daughter, as a toddler in a pram. Memories. And the fence still stands 30 years later. And 28 years later. But that was massive. We cutting all that wood and cutting it into posts. And every time I draw a fence, it takes me back. When was the last time you played Red Dead? I have not played a game, any game, I think I've played once in about a year. I've been itching to get back into it again, I have to say. I am itching to get back into it again. Oh, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I will be playing games again. I've just got to, because I'm limited, I'm so limited to my days with, like, I've got an hour max for my stream, and then I've got to get ready for work, finish it, edit it, and then get ready for work, because I edit for YouTube as well. So, so I've only got an hour. So I haven't got time to play games. Like, it'll have to be on a weekend, and when it's weekends, it's my family time. So I've sort of got to wait. I've got holidays coming up. I get a month off at Christmas. So I'm going to play games then, when I know I've got time that I can just hang out with you guys and play all day if I want to, because I do miss me games. I do miss me games. All right, I reckon I'm going to call that pretty much done. So I'm going to sign that down here. I am going to put the date on it. I'm going to take my tape off and hope it doesn't tear very carefully. Take my tape off. And very carefully take that down there. Like that. There we go. And that's that. I'll leave that top bit of tape on so it doesn't fall down. But yeah, so there we go. So that was lots of fun. Now I'm not sure if I'll be streaming over. I will take that off. I'm not sure if I'll be streaming over the weekend because we may be going away we're going fishing. I'm just going to stick that bit of tape on the back. Hang on. Ta-da! Like that. There we go. That'll keep it there. So if I don't stream this weekend, I will definitely be back on Monday morning, which will be your Sunday. So yes, I look forward to seeing you then. I have no idea what I'm going to do, so please leave any comments, any suggestions in the chat, and I will check them out and create a piece for you. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I'm going to sign off because I've got to get going and getting ready. So I will see you all hopefully on Monday. Thank you for popping in, everyone, on YouTube and on Twitch. I have enjoyed hanging out with you all. You are a bunch of legends, and I will see you all next time. So I'll catch you later, guys. Have an awesome day and an awesome weekend.